Every week, college football games hinge on a single word.
Touchdown. Touchdown, Texas. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Touchdown. Touchdown. Touchdown, Wisconsin. Touchdown. 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 Touchdown, Stanford. Touchdown. Touchdown, Alabama. Touchdown, Notre Dame. Touchdown. Wow.
This is Touchdown Radio. Here's Gino Torretta and Taylor Zarzour.
Back for another week of Touchdown Radio Tailgate here on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 84. He's Gino Torretta. I'm Taylor Zarzour, and we're getting you ready for week number 6. You're going to East Lansing, Michigan, where all of a sudden the Spartans have fallen on hard times, G, as they are 2-3 on the season, and they host the third-ranked Buckeyes. Any chance for an upset here?
Well, I think kind of the bigger picture, I think this is kind of what we're going to see, I believe, in this transfer portal day and age, where I think that Michigan State and Tucker caught lightning in a bottle with KW3 last year. He's in the, front runner for the Heisman. A bunch of transfers, and it meshed and it worked. And now, those transfers moved on. You're trying to reload with other transfers, and it hasn't meshed. And I think that's what we're going to see. And I think that, when you have, I was even watching a little bit of the 49ers game the other day. I mean, they were one game away from the Super Bowl. The prior year, they won 3 or 4 games. And the year before that, they were deep in the playoffs. So, that's something that we're used to seeing, I think, in the NFL because of roster turnover, free agency, and some injuries. But I think that Michigan State is kind of I guess a foreshadowing of if you're not recruiting at the top year in and year out and have a solid roster, you're gonna have these up and downs. And in today's microwave age of you need success immediately. We're just seeing, the coaching turnover. What has there already been? 6 Power 5 guys fired already this season. It's absolutely crazy. That the administration is like, well, we need to make a change. Well, grass isn't always greener, and you have to have somebody in place that is going to be able to year in and year out, or work hard and do it on the recruiting trail.
What are you talking about? Brent Key and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets took down Pitt. Clearly they did have a better option at head coach of the Jackets. Brent Key and the Jackets go on the road and beat the ACC champs. Now you got Mike Sanford as the head coach at Colorado. It couldn't be any worse than they were with Carl Durrell as the head coach. And now Jim Leonard is the head coach of the Wisconsin Badgers as they part ways with Mr. Big Ten West champion Paul Chryst.
Colorado's a perfect example. You and I have been on that campus. It's absolutely gorgeous. You and I are old enough to remember they won a national championship. So you can recruit. Now, is it harder? Sure. What do you have to do? You have to go into Los Angeles, and you have to be able to recruit, against SC and UCLA. Then you have to go, east and get into Texas, Oklahoma, and you have to kind of bring those guys together. But you've done it prior. And why are they not? You got a guy in Eric Bieniemy that is just, he's successful as an OC with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Something's up there.
You don't have to teach him the sales process. It's the same thing I said with Mario Cristobal. You don't have to teach him the sales process of, hey, how are you going to get a kid to come here? Because they know it. They've already gone through that process. And
something's got to be up there, Gino. Like he would have been a head coach long before now. Something's not right there.
Maybe turn it down. I don't know, but it just seems like.
By the way, you're right. Colorado used to be really good, but they got 5 downs. You only get 4 in 2022.
Wait a second, but that was after their national championship. That was like 94. They'd won the championship in 90.
Are you sure? I thought that was the same year.
No, when I was in school.
Was the kicked football, maybe that was I don't know.
Because remember that was Cordell Stewart when they got 5 downs and threw the Hail Mary at Michigan. That was after. No.
Look it up. No. Those are 2 different things. Cordell threw the bomb at the Big House to win the game. They won that one fair and square. They beat Mizzou with 5 downs, and I think it was
the year they won the national championship.
Yes, look it up. 5 downs.
I don't think so.
That was a long time ago.
Taylor, it's one down in a whole season. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, I shouldn't have won the national championship. But best of luck to Mike Sanford and the Buffaloes moving forward. Now go back to the game you've got this week.
You're right. October 6, 1990.
See, I knew what I was talking about. I thought I knew what I was talking about.
I got CTE. I can't remember 1990.
That's a touchy subject right now. I accidentally was right on that. Michigan State this week as a home team is a considerable underdog to Ohio State. They're 2-3 on the year. Ohio State, some may argue, is the best team in college football right now. If you want to put them number one, that I'd have no problem with that. They have soundly defeated every opponent more than Georgia or Alabama has. Maybe the competition was a little stiffer, at least for Alabama playing on the road at Texas and on the road at Arkansas. But I'd buy that if you want to put the Buckeyes number one. Ohio State is a 27-point favorite going into this game. And I'm just wondering if the Buckeyes slip up somewhere in a game they're not supposed to. Georgia last week had 60 minutes of a fight from a Mizzou team there's no one on the planet thought would give them a game. Alabama had the injury last week with Bryce Young. They were in a dogfight until Jalen Milroe decided he was going to be the fastest man on the planet. We've seen some other teams almost slip up near the top of the rankings. Any chance that happens to the Buckeyes, as you call it on Saturday?
I don't think there's any chance. And I think that
no chance.
If we go through a little bit of a history here, Michigan State was riding high. They beat Miami, their top 10 ranking. And I remember broadcasting this game in Columbus last year where it was supposed to be Walker versus Stroud for the Heisman. Mm-hmm. CJ Stroud, I thought, at least after that game, he was the lock to win the Heisman. I mean, he had 4 touchdown passes, I think, in the first 8 minutes of the game, ended with 5 or 6 touchdowns. But what it did, besides CJ Stroud's great performance, and I think Walker had like 25 yards in the game. I mean, it kind of brought Michigan State back down to earth, because since then it's like been, okay, now we see what the creme de la creme. But I'll just give you a couple of stats why I don't think there's a chance.
Okay.
Ohio State is first in scoring offense in the country at 48.8. Michigan State scoring offense 88. They only scored 27 a game, so their offense is struggling. Total offense for Ohio State is third in the country. Total defense for Michigan State, Tucker's a defensive guy, they're 100th. They've given up 411 a game. And look at the roster, or look at the schedule of teams that Michigan State's played. They haven't played a juggernaut like this Ohio State. And I would even say, Ohio State's not on full cylinders, because if you're going to give me, Harrison, how he's playing it, and then if Njigba Smith comes back at full speed, Henderson was banged up last week. If Ohio State's on full cylinders, I would agree. I don't think there's any question they can beat everybody in the country.
Would you vote them number one right now? If I know it doesn't matter, it's the middle of the season. These polls don't mean anything, but it's kind of fun to just rank them. Well, would you rank them number one, or would you put them behind Bama and Georgia?
To me, I would still have Georgia. I mean, I'm of the old school of, hey, they're the defending champs and they haven't lost. So to me, they have the belt. I mean, it's like we have the only sport in college football where the champion has a belt, and yet it's not considered the top team in the country.
You're going to give them number one because they won the championship last year with a bunch of defensive guys that now play in the NFL?
Yes, because they won the national championship and they still haven't lost.
I'd put them number one. I'd put them number one because I think they're the best team and they still haven't lost. And I thought they were the best team going into the year and they still haven't lost. But I don't know if I can agree that you're going to put them number one because Jordan Davis and a bunch of defensive guys, Trayvon Walker, the number one pick in the draft, who's now playing in the NFL.
They haven't lost. So what's your argument? You're splitting hairs here. I mean, listen, it doesn't matter till the end of the year.
Unlike Gino Torretta, who has not sold his game this week and says Ohio State will crush Michigan State, I'm encouraging you to listen to Touchdown Radio at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday, heard here on SiriusXM. You can also watch it on ABC.
They are on the road.
I'm not saying the Spartans are going to win, I'm not saying the Spartans are going to win, but I think it's going to be closer. I'm going plus 27 there. Some bad memories of traveling with Torretta from I don't know where we were, Detroit, I guess, to East Lansing. You rented some like 6-passenger van. You had 8 people you invited to the game. You said, Taylor, you can lay in the floorboard between everybody, and that's how the play-by-play man traveled from Detroit to East Lansing. And we watched Michigan State and Nebraska play 6 or 7 years ago. And I think I was the sickest I've ever been calling a sporting event.
Well, it was
like, I had this is pre-COVID. Now if you have the sniffles, then you have to go home for 2 weeks. But pre-COVID, I think I had a 102-degree fever, had the flu.
It was snowing.
A tough night.
It was snowing. And then they have the fire on the video board. And we're like, oh, this is.
You had me, and you didn't even have a seat for me in the car on the way there. Unbelievable what you did to me that night. Michigan State, huh? East Lansing this Saturday. Who's calling it with you, G?
Brett Dolan is.
Brett Dolan and Torretta calling it Saturday at 4 Eastern here on Sirius XM courtesy of Touchdown Radio. All right, when we come back, I want to talk about the games that happened last week, get your perspective on a few upsets and where we are through the first 5 weeks of the season, and then we'll get you ready for week number 6. I guess kind of, we've already started it since they had to make up that UCF-SMU game due to the hurricane. UCF whipped SMU by a final of 41-19. Hop on the Gus bus, man. They might win the American Conference. Who knows? They could get into the New Year's 6 this year. I think UCF's a candidate for that. We have no games tonight, and we have a few tomorrow that we'll get you ready for before you get the full slate on Saturday. Torretta and Zarzour are with you on Touchdown Radio Tailgate on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 84.
Original Penguin is now the official game day gear for Touchdown Radio. Original Penguin brings a modern-minded style for today's college football fan. You can be original at your next tailgate. Visit originalpenguin.com and use promo code TDRadio22 and get 20% off your order. That's TDRadio22 at originalpenguin.com for your Touchdown Radio 20% discount.
That's Gino Torretta wearing his Penguin t-shirt right now. I'm Taylor Zarzour. I'm loaded up with Touchdown Radio Penguin gear in the house right now. Thanks to my man Brian Bishop for sending that on. I'm pumped about wearing all these.
I tell you what, it is not. See, like you're in the Southeastern Conference, so you don't get much of the fall. But this is the time once October rolls around, you actually have to. Leaving South Florida, look at what the weather's like. And I was like, holy cow, 38 to 50 something in East Lansing.
Yeah, that's that'll get your attention in a hurry when you have when you're used to the warm weather in South Florida. Okay, I want to get to what happened this past week. Gino, you tell me anything you want to discuss from these results from last week. I'm going to go through a few of these. UCLA, undefeated still on the season. Chip Kelly's team gets into the top 25. They're 5-0, ranked 18th after beating previously number 15 Washington 40-32. Minnesota cracks the top 25 at 4-0 and immediately falls out, losing at home to Purdue 20-10. Will Levis will never forget how heartbreaking the loss was in Oxford, Mississippi. Number 7 Kentucky lost to number 14 Ole Miss 22-19. Oklahoma, holy cow, transition year for Brent Venables in year 1. They lose to TCU 55-24. The Horned Frogs are now number 17 in the country. I'm going to stop there. Those were the Friday night and the early kicks on Saturday. Anything from those games that caught your interest?
Well, I thought obviously UCLA, because I was big on Penix at Washington. I thought he'd play well, and for Chip Kelly's offense to finally get rolling, throw up 40. I sat there and watched both the Kentucky Ole Miss game. It was a struggle. I would like to ask, now I wore eye black, and eye black goes underneath your eyes, and it really does serve a purpose to keep the glare out of your eyes. The quarterback for Ole Miss puts eye black down his eyelid. Now, wouldn't it go in your eye I mean, I don't know. I just that was one
Jackson
thing.
Dart, man, he's a different cat.
It kind of well, I would say this. He doesn't throw any darts. The ball goes all over the place when he's throwing because he's not exactly the most accurate. The other thing I would
Maybe
say,
he's trying to get into wrestling, you know.
Well, he needs to get the eye black out of his eyelid and off of his eyeball.
Didn't John Randall do that with the Vikings? Didn't he?
John Randall, I played with. He put it from his bottom of his eye down. This kid's got it through his eyelid. Now, every time your eye closes, it's on your eye. The other thing.
All right, Dart, get it off of your eye.
The other thing, I'm on board with TCU. Holy cow, Dugans, the QB. I was very impressed. They got some dudes on that team, and they absolutely boat raced Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's Sonny Dykes, year number 1, very quickly off to a fast start with the way that they've been playing so far this year, and over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns, and then you also had the kid on the ground, Kendry Miller, who was gashing that Venables defense. Wake beats Florida State. Florida State enters the poll, immediately jumps out. So the Deacs in their undefeated season. Alabama beats Arkansas 49-26. Gino, Bryce, I know you've had some shoulder issues. You know I've had some shoulder issues. Bryce Young now has a shoulder issue. I'd like to know what you think is going to happen with Bryce Young, what they'll do to Bryce Young, and the impact it has on Alabama beginning this weekend against Texas A&M. I realize Texas A&M's a mess right now, but they lost this game last year, although it was in College Station.
All right, so what I would say this, in both my junior and senior year, I had an AC separations, different shoulders. One year was the right shoulder, 1 year was the left shoulder. You're told by the doctor. I mean, and it was kind of crazy because it happened the same way with Bryce. I scrambled, tried to throw and threw the ball like forward, like almost like a shovel pass. I hadn't gone past the line of scrimmage, and I came down incomplete, went to the bench. Nothing. Sudden change, almost like right after our defense got the ball back, I go to stand up and I can't move my arm. I mean, it was just like a debilitating injury. And I was like screaming on the sideline. I'm like, and this is 5 minutes after, the fall. And the orthopedic comes over and he puts his hand under my thing, has move my shoulder, and he goes, "You separated your AC joint." And I'm like, "But I didn't feel anything." He goes, "We need to go in the locker room." All right. So we go in the locker room, and I'm like, "Okay, what are my options?" I'm not sitting. Now, we were playing FAMU. It was only like our second or third game, and I said, "I'm not sitting out." I go, "I can miss second half of this game, but I'm not sitting out." We had, I think in my senior year, we had Arizona, we had Penn State, we had Florida State right in a row. And I'm like, I want to win a national championship, and I know I got to be out playing quarterback. And essentially it becomes pain management. You can either, take a cortisone injection, hopefully it reduces the swelling. You're going to play with pain the entire season. You change your workout plan. You can't barbell bench anymore because what your left shoulder could do or your uninjured side can do is more than your injured side. So you got to go less weight. You got to go dumbbell. So it's going to change his workout. I still to this day, heavy backpack pushes on my clavicle. It messes with my AC joint. So he's going to have this essentially for, a long, long time, if not the rest of his life. And for Alabama, it's going to come down to him. What's he willing to, the pain management, what's he willing to do to get back out there? Because just like yours had the same AC injury, the only thing that heals an AC joint injury is not playing and not re-injuring it. But he's not going to, it's kind of I guess a different injury than a partial knee, where you're like, man, if he goes back out there, he can really blow it out. It's already affected. I mean, so you could injure it, and it's not really a different injury. But it's going to affect, I mean, as far as, God, I can remember like they put like a plastic thing. I don't even remember. It was like felt and stuff, and it was coverage. So if I got hit in the shoulder, but a quarterback, I don't know if it's his left side, but it's, it's his strong. You can't, most guys that play have it. They try to restrict your movement or your shoulder. He can't. I mean, he can't play the position with a restricted shoulder. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, if I'm running and I'm him, man, you better get down. Better not stick your shoulder in there.
Milroe, the backup, is the fastest guy on the team. The guy can absolutely fly, and he's got a different skill set that he likes to showcase as opposed to Bryce Young. Bryce Young is a traditional, like to sit in the pocket guy. He can move. He's a great athlete, but he does not like to run.
Do the coaches a 2 quarterback system?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was about to ask. You know what I mean? Texas A&M, is that a possibility? You got Tennessee the following week, and that'll be a huge game in Knoxville. Best chance the Vols have had to beat Alabama in probably over a decade. So I'm interested to see what happens the next couple of weeks. Of course, the other fascinating part of that A&M Alabama game is the situation that Texas A&M's offense is currently in. I had their game this past weekend, Gino, and this team got into the red zone quite a bit in that game and then made critical errors once they got in there, fumbling the football, pick six, block kick, return for a touchdown. I do wonder, let me make this clear. I cannot envision a scenario where Jimbo Fisher is fired by Texas A&M. I can't see any scenario
where his buyout is.
There's no way, and that's
like
why
$85 million for the next 6 years.
That's why there's no scenario. I don't care if that Texas A&M's got more money than everybody else. They're not doing that. That's ridiculous. It's way too expensive to do that. Is there a scenario where Jimbo may say, "Okay, it's not working here. I'll go someplace else"? I don't know. Maybe. Again, I think that's unlikely too. To me, the most realistic scenario, Gino, is that Texas A&M brings someone else in to call their plays beginning in 2023, which will be fascinating to watch because Jimbo Fisher, he is more passionate about calling plays than he is about anything else. But you wonder, has his offense got a little stale and it gotten a little archaic in 2022?
And I would say this, and I was thinking about this. So my junior year, Coach Bob Brakowski was our offensive coordinator. Dennis Erickson, the head coach, had a headset on. He was our quarterbacks coach. So all my meetings under Coach Erickson were with the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
He said he wasn't the offensive coordinator. Now, where's the play coming from? It's me and you discussing a situation and agreeing on a play and a play coming in. Now, was Coach Brakowski trying to say, "Hey, I was calling all the plays," or Coach Erickson saying, "I was calling all the plays," or no? Or was me saying, "Well, hell, I was calling all the plays because I was automoting whatever I wanted to"? You're not looking for credit. And that's something where maybe Jimbo has to kind of look in the mirror, or he doesn't have somebody that is upstairs or his eyes upstairs saying, "Hey, here's their tendencies. Here's something to take a look at." Is he that stubborn that he doesn't listen? Because I know this. I watch a game on the sidelines. I can't see it. I watch a game where I can, and this. I don't even want to watch anything other than all 22, so I can see, okay, this is what coverages they're doing. This is where they're bringing down support for the run game. These are run plays that are going to work. These are play action off those, and call this, and just constant knowledge. I mean, you see the NFL. Why are these offensive coordinators so good? These guys on the sideline, hell, they're watching video of the series like as it's happening on those Surface tablets on the sidelines. So you can instantly say, "Oh, okay, this is what they're doing. We need to change to this. These are the audibles now."
I think you're asking the right questions. Does Jimbo, is he doing that? Does he have people that are doing that for him, that are giving him candid reactions to what's happening in the game? Because Aggies would tell you they think that he's being too stubborn and that they need to make some adjustments here.
Well, and let me
just say this, Gino, if the game gets out of hand on Saturday night, it's going to get really ugly there.
And this is not to say let analytics take over, because I think there's some issues like with the analytics stuff. I'm not a big analytics guy because I think you have to coach in the moment of, okay, give me some odds, right? But I'm not making my final decision off analytics. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying another set of eyes and ears that I would say Jimbo respects, because look at LSU when they had Brady and Ensminger. You know what I mean? I mean, it worked.
It worked,
and that's something where you need guys. I've never, at least my experiences on teams, when you are on a team, whether it's coached by or a team that is successful, guys aren't looking to say, "Hey, I was this. I'm the play
You
caller.
have to
I'm
have
the
a good
quarterback."
team
You know what I
effort.
mean? I'm
Got
the
to be
greatest.
collaborative.
Yeah, and I think that's where, and the money is so big in these coaches. It's like, who cares if you have somebody up there? You know what I mean? Hell, he could. I mean, to be honest, Taylor, he could hire Brad Johnson, Max's dad, and say, "Go up in the booth, and I want you to tell me what you see. This is what we're trying to do." And I guarantee Brad would give him solid advice of, "Okay, coach, this is what I'm seeing. You know what? Hey, I like here. You know, I like here. Like keep it simple, stupid. Don't overcomplicate the issues."
Well, it's fascinating what's happening there in College Station, and they're in T-Town on Saturday to play the Crimson Tide. We'll see what happens at quarterback for Alabama. A couple other things I need to mention before we go to a break. One is Oklahoma State's having a phenomenal year. They beat Baylor this past weekend. They're 4-0. This looks like one of Coach Gundy's best team. They've come so close to the playoffs before. Maybe this is their best chance. Clemson beat NC State. I wasn't a big believer in Clemson before this game. Picked NC State to win it. I got to give Dabo credit. That team looks like a college football playoff contender, especially with the way they beat the Wolfpack this past Saturday night. The Kansas Jayhawks, we'll get to them in the next segment. College game day there on Saturday. So good for college football to have traditional basketball programs playing so well in football this year. We'll get into that coming up in the next segment. And I got to give credit to the last two undefeated group of 5 teams. James Madison in their first year in the FBS is 4-0, and the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers are 5-0 to start the season. Congrats to both of those programs on great starts to the season. We're going to get into some more games here, G, coming up in the next segment. We got a good list of great games this week, and you need to make your way up. You need to make a comeback here. You're down 5. So we got some
I gave you 3 this week.
We are gonna we'll update the standings coming up in just a little bit. Great.
That was me jumping on a bandwagon. Let's see, me taking Florida State. I should have known I'd never take the Seminoles. You know, my Schlep Rock team, I guess.
We got a great slate in week 6. We'll go over it coming up on Touchdown Radio Tailgate on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 84.
Original Penguin is now the official game day gear for Touchdown Radio. Original Penguin brings a modern-minded style for today's college football fan. You can be original at your next tailgate. Visit originalpenguin.com and use promo code TDRadio22 and get 20% off your order. That's TDRadio22 at originalpenguin.com for your Touchdown Radio 20% discount.
That is the national championship quarterback, Gino Torretta from the University of Miami. I'm Taylor Zarzour from little-known Huntington College. This is college football's week number 6.
I think you're from Mobile. You're part of the Mobile Mafia, if I was under that understanding.
Okay, but if that's the case, well, then you're from Pinole, California then, all right?
And pinhole without the H. That's what people are like, where are you from? I said Pinole. And I said pinhole without the H.
Yeah. No, I'm just going over colleges here. Huntington College Hawks and the Miami Hurricanes represented here on Touchdown Radio Tailgate. Let's get into the slate here in week number 6. Gino, we're going to pick some of these games in the next segment, but I want to say another word or two here in this segment about TCU and Kansas. They're playing each other in Lawrence on Saturday, and this is a top 25 matchup. 2 teams in the top 20 in the country. It's not shocking to see TCU in there. We see TCU in the top 25 most years. They're number 17. Rock, Chalk, Jayhawk in football is number 19, and College Game Day is there on Saturday. How cool is that?
I mean, it's awesome. I think that, you know, obviously people want parity in all of sports, and you want the opportunity. You know what I mean? It's like you want to go into the season to think like there's a chance. And I think that, you know, I guess the kind of the down negative of college football last several years has been, well, it's just going to be out of these 6 teams, it's going to be 4 of them, and nobody else has got a shot. And I think that you love to see this, and hopefully it continues. I think, as we talked about earlier with the Michigan State issues, the up and down of a great season and then a not so great season, I think we're going to see more of this. I think that the question is are we going to get one of these teams and kind of, Cinderella stories, if you will, to get into that playoff at the end of the year?
Outside the top 25, a few intriguing matchups to watch. In the Big Ten, Brett Bielema's Illinois Fighting Illini has a chance to be 5-1 if they can beat Iowa at home. Great start for Coach Bielema. Beat his old team, Wisconsin, last week, and they got rid of their head coach, Paul Chryst. In the Big 12, Gino, there's only one game that does not feature top 25 teams, and they're the SEC teams. Texas and Oklahoma in Dallas in the Red River rivalry, or whatever we're calling it these days. Neither are ranked in the top 25. And the Big 12 strongly promoting their other matchups this week.
Very, very interesting. You know what? I would just say this. Okay, neither team's in the top 25. There's some great games in this rivalry, and it's like I don't get so much caught up in the what are the rankings here. I mean, obviously we know a national championship isn't on the line in this game, but we do know it's still Oklahoma, Texas. It still means a hell of a lot as they go to the SEC. Local recruiting and all of those things that come with the local game.
I got to get to that game at some point in my life. I got to do it. ACC, interested to see what happens with North Carolina at Miami. Miami had a week off after that disappointing performance against Middle Tennessee. The Heels are 4-1. Defense looked better against Virginia Tech, but still not sure Gene Chizik's defense is ready for ACC opponents. We'll find out. And I got to say this. I got to give a shout out to a group of 5 matchup this week featuring a 4-1 team playing at a 3-1 team. UNLV, the Runnin' Rebels, Gino, are 4-1 on the young season. This is a program that has never been good in college football. They've gone to 4 bowl games in their entire history. Marcus Arroyo, who came over from Oregon, is their head coach, and he has done a whale of a job. Arroyo used to play for San Jose State, and he's playing against Brent Brennan in San Jose State this week. Every once in a while, you got to give a shout out to the smaller schools, right? 4-1 UNLV at 3-1 San Jose State.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Obviously, San Jose State, the alma mater of Connie Torretta, my mother. So shout out to the Spartans, and I broke the school record for passing against the Spartans, 468 yards back in the day. So
you dedicated your performance.
There you go. I think they're a lot better team than when I played them back then. But yeah, that's awesome to see. And UNLV is kind of one of those, like, I mean, we're old enough. How can Tarkania put together this basketball team and they can't get anybody to play football for their squad? But yeah, you love to see success. It's so much fun in college football.
Some top 25 matchups we'll be paying attention to. NC State's ranked 14th after the loss last week. They host Florida State in Raleigh on Saturday night. Number 16 BYU, who is 4-1 on the season, is playing at 2-2 Notre Dame. Again, it's year one. You got to give Coach Freeman some time, but falling to 2-3 would definitely get the Golden Domers chirping. And then how about this? Can we fill up the Rose Bowl, please? I know it's a 12:30 kick local time on Saturday in Pasadena. Number 11 Utah is playing it undefeated, and number 18 ranked UCLA. Can we get the Bruins fans to get into the Rose Bowl, Gino, to watch their undefeated team on Saturday?
You'll get a few. But it's
partial sellout.
There's no question. It's always a partial sellout in the Rose Bowl if it's not the actual Rose Bowl game. I mean, it's obviously an idyllic setting, and it's one of the greatest places, if not the greatest place to go watch a game and do a game. But I think that the college football fan in Southern California, one is, they've been known to maybe get on a bandwagon here or two, and it's been on USC more recently, but neither one of those teams for a few years has been worthy of, multiple coaches at USC and then kind of multiple coaches at UCLA. And I think the fan base, the local population just kind of lost interest. Hey, are we even in this? Are we good? And I think it's going to take some time, but this is a big matchup. Are they going to sell the place out? No. Now if they beat Utah, I think then they're going to start. Maybe then there's 6-0. Okay. Then there's a little bit more buzz. I think that they're going to get some, obviously, from last week beating Washington. People are like, wow, Washington's a brand name in the Pac-12. Yeah. And I also think there's also some issues of, with some certain college football markets and their major cities.
And this is one of them.
I think people are like, what conference are UCLA and USC in? Aren't they in the Big Ten? Because if you don't follow it, you think they're in the Big Ten, but they're not in the Big Ten this year. So
one last thing I got to ask you about before we take a break and get to the picks. We referenced this earlier in the show. We've already had 5 Power 5 jobs change hands so far this year. Nebraska got rid of Scott Frost. Arizona State fired Herm Edwards on the field. Georgia Tech got rid of Jeff Collins. Colorado in the last week has parted ways with Carl Durrell. They haven't won a game yet. And Wisconsin, even though Paul Chryst had a lot of success, it kind of fallen back a bit the last couple of years. They parted ways with Coach Chryst this week. You have been to Auburn to do a couple of games already this year. If Georgia beats Auburn convincingly in the Deep South's oldest rivalry, going to take some getting used to with this game in October, by the way, instead of in the latter part of the year in November. If Georgia beats up on Auburn on Saturday night, what happens to Brian Harsin?
Well, I can tell you this. Doing the game there last week, I'd never done a game where 2 teams are 3-1 and 2 teams essentially control their own destiny because their loss is not in their division and they control. You could literally get to a national championship game if you win out. And I had never been like, it was more negativity. It was almost like the LSU fans were, hey, we're at the altar, or we're walking out of the church and we're not sure we married the right girl kind of vibe. And then you have Auburn, where I sat there and watched Tiger Walk, and the least amount of people that I've ever seen at a Tiger Walk. And it wasn't cheers. It was more like jeers. The band's playing, obviously, and that's a great scene normally. And it was just like a lot of hushed heck, you get on the elevator. One guy goes, if they lose, Harsin's not going to make the press conference. I was like, what? It was like people are telling me, well, we want Deion Sanders to coach Auburn. I'm like, you have a coach. You haven't decided what you're doing there. Like I've never, and we've been there enough to where it's like, how many coaches is Auburn? The multiple times they try to get Petrino to run off Tuberville. And Tuberville, what was he, 7-1 against Bama? And then you have Chiswick's win a title. Malzahn, they run it. It's like, I don't understand. Like, I guess I understand that Auburn's feeling is Nick Saban's in the same state and is the greatest coach in college football history. Well, we want Nick Saban. And until they hire Nick Saban's ghost, because he's not going to go to Auburn, the fans are never going to be happy there. I don't get it. But I thought the seat was already incinerated. I didn't think the seat was hot. And I think it's just, I don't know. And I will say this, bro, they're up 17-0. Miss a field goal to go up 20-0 in the second quarter and blow the game. I've never seen something where I'm sitting there watching that. I'm like, it was like an internal implosion. And I'm like, it's not good vibes down there on the plane.
No, it's not. And I think Brian Harsin's a really good coach. I know that a lot of people listening right now are, Taylor, come on. No, he is. I really believe he's a really good coach. I thought he did.
Best thing for Brian Harsin's career at Auburn was they had 5 home games to start the season, because I think that Auburn's like, you know what? hell, we got 7 away games.
Yeah.
We're going to fire him and not let the team back in Auburn.
I thought he did a great job at Boise State. You just wonder sometimes if somebody is just not the right fit at a school. So far, he has not been the right fit. Clearly, he has not been the right fit. But it sure feels like this is a quick decision to make, only a year and a half in. But I don't want to see him fired. I don't like seeing people fired, especially this early. But being realistic about it, if Georgia whips Auburn on Saturday, I'm not so sure he's coaching the next week. We'll find out. I hope that's not the case. All right, picks coming up next. We'll go through some of the games this week that we need to make a selection on that we think are the closest matchups. We'll do that when Touchdown Radio Tailgate continues on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM Channel 84. It's Touchdown Radio Tailgate on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM Channel 84 with Gino Torretta. I'm Taylor Zarzour. Let's go through the picks for week 6 of the college football season. I'm 30-12. Toretta's off to a slow start, just 25-17. Last week, I had Kentucky. He had Ole Miss, but I had Wake. He had Florida State. I had Mississippi State. He had A&M. And I picked up another game on you because of those differences last week. Let's get to this week's slate. Number 17, TCU at number 19, Kansas. College game day is there. And then FS1 is going to call the game at noon Eastern time. TCU's a 6.5-point favorite on the road, Gino, and I'm going with the Frogs. I hate to pick against the Jayhawks since they're having such a great start to the season, but it ends here, TCU with the victory on the road.
Yeah, I'm all in with Dukins. By the way, I texted Mark Jones, who was doing the TCU game. Make sure you go downstairs. He goes, bro, red snapper. He told me the menu downstairs. He goes, best in the country. I go, I know. God,
it's unbelievable there. Yeah, Jonesy got in on it. I love it. All right, so we both go TCU there as they play in Lawrence this week. Number 4, Michigan is at Indiana. It's a 12 o'clock kick on Fox. Michigan's a huge favorite in this game. I don't think they'll have any problem with the Hoosiers, G.
Yeah, Michigan rolls. I think they're one of those teams they're the real deal.
All right, next up, we have number 8, Tennessee, undefeated on the season, playing at number 25, LSU. This is a noon start, an 11 a.m. local kick in Tiger Stadium. I thought that was against the law.
Cajuns are just going to keep it rolling from Friday. They're not even bothering waking up early for this one.
It doesn't even, morning at Tiger Stadium in Death Valley. That doesn't make any sense. Who you got here, G?
I'm saying Tennessee. I'm buying Josh Heupel's offense. I think they're gonna run a ton of plays, and LSU. I'm not convinced even after the win at Auburn.
I'm going with Tennessee as well in that early kick. Texas plays Oklahoma in Dallas, a noon kick on ABC. Both of these teams are 3-2 on the season. The Horns are 7-point favorites. And after what we've witnessed the last couple of weeks, I can't pick Oklahoma here. I got to go Texas. Oklahoma's in disarray, especially on defense.
Yeah, you got to stop somebody on defense for us to have any belief there. I agree with you, UT.
All right, no differences so far as we go out to the Pac-12. Number 11, Utah. Number 18, UCLA. It's a 3:30 kick on Fox. Utah is a slight 3.5-point favorite here, G.
You know, I was waiting to use this. Got to go with my gutty little Bruins.
Are you really? Okay, gutty little Bruins.
The baby blue.
You're incorrect.
I know you're going to take Utah.
Utah, 2 Utes. Utah's winning this game on the road in the partially sold out Rose Bowl. Next, North Carolina plays at Miami. It is a 4 o'clock kick on ESPN2. The Tar Heels are 3.5-point dogs in this game. Wrong team's favored. Sorry about your alma mater, Gino. I'm going North Carolina.
Yeah, I think North Carolina, their quarterback's got 20 touchdowns. He might have 25 after this week. I think Miami's defense was awful against MTSU. I think they've been inconsistent in a new system under Josh Gaddis and the offense and Mario Cristobal. So I agree. I think Miami's always struggled with North Carolina. It doesn't matter if they're favored by a lot or a little. It always have.
2 independent teams are playing each other. What is this, 1992? Number 16, BYU at Notre Dame, 7:30 kick on NBC. Notre Dame is a 3.5-point favorite, and I'm picking the Irish to beat the Cougs.
Well, you know I can never pick the Irish, so I'm going Cougs on the road. Go BYU and Ty Demers.
I knew that would happen. Number 14, NC State hosts Florida State at 8 o'clock on the ACC network on Saturday night. NC State is the favorite in this game. They're favored by 3.5 only, though. Gino, who you got?
You know, this is one of those ones. Florida State, you know, I was all in last week. This is my slep rock game. I would stay away from it, but I'll pick the home team here since I really don't have a strong feel either way.
Wolfpack, I'm doubling down after they let me down last week against Clemson. I'm going back to State at home in Carter Finley Stadium. Yeah, I'm not doing that. They don't deserve it after what they did last week. McAfee did it. I did it. That didn't work. I'm going back with the pack, though, this week. Gino, good stuff as always. We love doing this show. Have fun in East Lansing, Ohio State, and Michigan on Touchdown Radio at 4 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday. I'm Taylor Zarzour for Gino Torretta. We appreciate you listening to Touchdown Radio Tailgate on ESPNU Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 84.